Greetings, friends. Welcome once again to another series on hell. This is the section of Mesopotamian literature, and in the last video, 1.3, we discussed two works of literature where the participants had visions of the underworld. In this section, we will look at two pieces of literature where deities actually travel to the underworld, and we'll be looking at some of the things they experienced there, some of the exchanges with people in the underworld. We'll be looking at demons, and I'm breaking this section up on the descents because this is very important, and the literature is pretty long, and there's a lot of motifs and symbolism going on that I'm going to need to cover. So just bear with me. I'm breaking it up into three parts, so you'll be able to follow me a little bit better. Here we're going to start with the Descent of Annona. We're going to start with the Descent of Annona because this will give us an overview on the Descent of Ishtar. The Descent of Annona is Sumerian, the Descent of Ishtar is Babylonian. And because we don't have a full text of the Descent of Ishtar, the Descent of Annona is more conclusive, and you can see the ritual aspect of this. This may even been done as a play. The Descent of Ishtar, we'll look at some of the especially towards the end of that text, we'll look at some of the rituals, and we'll compare that to, this is what I would like to do. When we're going through this material, we need to also be comparing it to theologies of modern day religions, because this is some of the earliest material where you see these types of theologies being formatted and composed. So what we're trying to do in these lectures, we have pieces, blocks thrown all over the floor, and we're going to gather those blocks, and we're going to try to put the house back together. So here we have motifs of gates. You have some of the earliest forms of replacement theology. You have some of the earliest ideas of demons being attached to a person. You have atonement theology here. We have the underworld in conflict with the heavens, or the deities above. Here we have, as we'll see in the text, two deities that are androgynous, neither male nor female, created to specifically descend to the underworld and release the goddess. Here you have motifs of bread of life, motifs of the food of life. Here you have earliest forms, some of the earlier forms of resurrection theology. So this is all very important, and the Descent of Annona is probably one of those texts that is probably, in my view, personally, one of the most important in Sumerian literature that can be paralleled to how we view things today in some aspects. And you'll see how all these theologies, as we go through the literature, is built upon. So, in the next video, this is just a short introduction to the Descent of Annona. We're going to actually look at this text. So what happens is, why does Inanna descend to the underworld? She descends to the underworld because, in the text, she wants to mourn for the bull of heaven, or Erishkigal, the goddess of the underworld's husband. For some reason, he has died. In Gilgamesh, we see that Gilgamesh and Enkidu have killed the Bull of Heaven, it may have been this deity here. So Inanna descends to the underworld, and Ereshkigal asks who's out there to her advisor, and she's allowed in, and all this conflict ensues. Inanna ends up being held in the underworld, and Inanna's advisor is given instructions before she descends that she should do all these things, and so the visor, when Inanna doesn't come back in 3 days, which is another motif, which is very interesting, she follows these instructions. She goes to the temples of the gods to plead Inanna's case to get her released. None of the gods care, except for one, Enki. Enki creates the two androgynous beings. They go to the underworld, and they come back with Inanna. Demons are attached to her because in case she does not keep her vow to send somebody back in her place, she will be taken back to the underworld. So she meets up with all these people, and she finally meets up with Tamazu, or Damazu, Tamazu Babylonian, Damazu Sumerian, and she releases the demons onto Tamazu, and he's taken to the underworld. So here we can see in biblical literature, I believe it's in Ezekiel, where the maidens weep for Tamazu, and this is where that comes from. So here again, it's replacement theology. Here, the underworld requires that if one leaves death, one is required to come back in its place. We'll see early forms also of possibly the idea of baptism here. The water of life is sprinkled on Inanna, and the bread of life is given to her, and she, the food of life, and she is resurrected. So another theme is the gates of hell. There's 7 gates, and we can compare that to later Judaism and Islam, with also the 7 sections of the underworld. But here, as they pass through the gates, they're stripped of everything, of their worldly possessions, and they go down naked. On the return, they get everything back. So here, we'll see all that, and so join me in the next lecture, 1.5, to finally get into covering the material of the text of Descent of Annona, and then in 1.6 we'll be looking at the Descent of Ishtar. So please hang in there, and hopefully this will be somewhat enjoyable, and take care, friends. Remember, if everybody's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking.